إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن عدة الشهور عند الله 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أفضل الصيام بعد رمضان شهر الله المحرم صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the creator of the heavens and the earth. And this heaven and the earth, it encompasses time and space. So every single day and month was created by Him and Him alone through His infinite wisdom. Every minute of our life is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which needs to be availed, which requires us to thank Him for every single second. In this respect, all time, every minute, every hour, every second, every single aspect of time is the same. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He attributed special sanctity to specific days and months throughout the year. And He assigned particular ibadah for those particular days and months. A day is only deemed special when the shariah deems it special. If it doesn't hold any sanctity and sacredness by Allah, then it's just like any other day and any other time. There's no ifs and buts about it. So your birthday is like any other day. Your honeymoon is like any other day. So now after we understand the macro aspect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the creator of all time, let's look at it on a micro level and take a look at particular times and particular days throughout the year that hold significance because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given it certain significance. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has stated in the Quran, in Surah Tawbah, that إِنَّ عِدَّةَ الشُّهُورِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ 12 شهرا في كتاب الله يوم خلق السماوات والأرض منها 4 حرم ذلك الدين القيم فلا تظلموا فيهن أنفسكم. He stated that there are 12 months. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states in the Quran, Surah Tawbah, that there are 12 months of the year. And in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's record that has been recorded, in the Lawh al-Mahfuz, since the day that He has created the heavens and the earth. And out of those 12, 4 of them have been sacred throughout history. He keeps on going. He said, that is the ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمِ, that is the proper deen, that is the adequate deen. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ, so don't do dhulm on those particular days or months. And some even say throughout the whole year that applies. Don't do dhulm to yourself, to others. فَلَا تَظْلِمُوا فِيهِنَّ أَنفُسَكُمْ. So we understand that minha 4 hurum, that 4 out of the 12 hold sanctity. And it was even to the point where the Jahilis and the Arabs, they held these 4 months to a special regard. Now, they would switch up the months. Sometimes they would put it before, sometimes they would delay it, sometimes they would make it earlier to their own desires. But at the same time, they still had some type of importance. They gave some type of importance to these 4 months. What are they? You have 3 consecutive months: Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram, and then you have Rajab. So these are the 4 sacred months. Now, all 12 of these months, as we talked about earlier, they're all inherently equal to one another. They all have the same amount of time, days, months, same thing. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He attributes a particular blessing for a day or a month, that day or month acquires sanctity, and it acquires that sacredness, that special nature. Before that, all of them were the same. And that's where the beauty of the Islamic calendar comes in. When, mashallah, when the wealth started to spread, if you look during the Khilafah of Umar radiallahu anhu, that was probably one of the biggest phases where Islam spread to the east and the west. Umar radiallahu anhu, he would start to distribute the wealth based off on seniority in Islam. And the earliest converts were given the money first. So eventually this required counting years, months, and days, which required a starting point. And they didn't really count years, nor did they have like a first month before that. Yeah, they had the Amul Fil, the year, or they had Amul Huzn, the year where Prophet ﷺ's uncle passed away, Khadija radiallahu anha passed away. Yes, those are particular years, but besides that, it wasn't counted. They didn't have a particular calendar that they followed. So Umar radiallahu anhu, he called the senior Sahaba for mashwara, and they agreed with Ali radiallahu anhu's suggestion that to pin year 1 of the Islamic calendar with the Hijrah. Migration took place from Mecca to Medina. Now, since the reason for that is that's when Muslims officially had control over all of their affairs. So they pinned the first year of the Islamic calendar with the Hijrah. Then Umar radiallahu anh, he asked, okay, we have the year, what about the month? What's going to be the first month? What's going to be the first month? So he asked the Sahaba. The Hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ took place in Rabiul Awwal. So some of them said, okay, let's go with that. Let's go with Rabiul Awwal being the first month. Others said, no, let's go with Ramadan. Ramadan's the greatest month. So let's go with Ramadan. So they had their discussions. Uthman radiallahu anh came forward, and he had another idea which everybody liked. And he said that we make Hajj in the month of Dhul Hijjah, and we renew our intentions, we renew our book of deeds. So let's make Dhul Hijjah the last month of the year, the last month of the year, and let's start off fresh with the month of Muharram. So they agreed to this, and that's how the Islamic calendar was set. Year 1 as a Hijrah, and Muharram as the first month of the Islamic calendar. You have every month has 29, 30 days, so the year is about 354 days. Now, that's good, mashallah, that you have the history of that. That's important that we know why our calendar is such. But let's get into the particulars of this month that we're in right now, for the last few moments that we have left. Some action items that we can perform in this month. Number 1, the Prophet ﷺ particularly said, calling this the Shahrullah, calling this the month of Allah. No other month was given this name besides the month of Muharram. Now, no doubt, Ramadan is the most sacred and blessed of months. But after that, we have Muharram. And he said, أفضل الصيام بعد رمضان شهر الله المحرم. He said that the most virtuous of fasts after Ramadan are those fasts of Muharram. So that's one action item that the Prophet ﷺ has made mention for the entire month. And whether you do it 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, however many days you can, that's up to you. But that sacredness is for every single day. Every single day has its own sanctity within this month. That's what the Prophet ﷺ said, Shahrullah, the entire month, which is Muharram. Now, similar to last month, when we talked about Dhul Hijjah, we had the best days of the year, referring to the first 10 days, which led up to the day of Arafah. We have this month of Muharram as well. It peaks when? You have Ashura, the 10th of Muharram. And this year, 1444, this Ashura falls on the Monday, this upcoming Monday. It falls on upcoming Monday. Now, what did the Prophet ﷺ say about this particular day of Ashura? He said that قالت كان يوم عاشوراء تصومه قريش في الجاهلية. Now, this was a day that was held in high regard by the Arabs of the past, the Jahili Arabs of the past. So they would fast even on that day, whatever type of fast they had, whatever remnants they had left of the Abrahamic tradition, whatever they had some type of Hajj, they had some type of fasting that existed. So since then, they would fast even on this day. So the Prophet ﷺ also, he would fast on that day. فَلَمَّا قَدِمَ الْمَدِينَةِ صام وأمر بالصيام فلما فرض رمضان ترك يوم عاشوراء فمن شاء صام فمن شاء صام ومن شاء ترك. So when they approached Medina, they came to Medina, he also told the Muslims that you fast. Okay, he commanded them that you need to fast. This was an obligatory fast. This was the only obligatory fast. And then once kutiba alaykum as-siyam, once Ramadan came down, then this fast of Yom Ashura was not mandatory anymore, but it was still something that was recommended and the Prophet ﷺ would encourage the Sahaba to do. And as we know that the Prophets, they're the best of humans. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commemorates them in multiple ways. And He commemorated the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam with Hajj. You have Sa'i, you have all of the pillars, you have the building of the Kaaba, you have performing the Hajj, you have the sacrificing the animal, and the entire family is commemorated with this beautiful journey. And in another narration, it mentions by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhuma, he stated that قدم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة فوجد اليهود صياما. The Prophet ﷺ, when they approached Medina, he saw that the Yahud, they were also fasting, just like how the Jahili Arabs were fasting as well. So he said, what's going on over here? ما هذا? What's going on? He said, قالوا هذا يوم أنجى الله فيه موسى. This is the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved Musa alayhi salam and his army. وأغرق فيه فرعون. And he drowned Fir'aun and his army. فصامه موسى شكرا. So Musa alayhi salam, he fasted, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this. So فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نحن أحق بموسى منك. He said that we have more right over Musa alayhi salam than you all. We as Muslims have more right to Musa alayhi salam than you all. Because the Prophet ﷺ, remember, he would always differentiate himself and the Muslims from the Ahlul Kitab and from the non-Muslims. He wasn't trying to be like them. Even, when it came to the style of his hair, he found out that they used to keep it a particular way, so he used to change it. They kept it that way, so he changed it. So anytime the Prophet ﷺ, he would differentiate themselves from the non-Muslims. So since the Muslims were already fasting on the 10th of Muharram, Prophet ﷺ said, okay, when the next year comes, my intention, my irada, is that I'm going to fast on the 9th as well, to differentiate myself from the Ahlul Kitab, from the Jews. Prophet ﷺ passed away before that happened, but he encouraged and he told the Muslims to do it. That's why what do? We fast on the 9th and the 10th, or if not possible, then the 10th and the 11th. So this fast of Ashura was mandatory, but that wujub, that obligatory aspect was removed and it was made now mustahab. Now, we want to always understand what was the significance and why this day became so sanctified and so sacred. And that was clearly mentioned in the hadith, that this is the day that Musa alayhi salam was saved from Fir'aun. So that's how we commemorate our day of Ashura. Now, by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by fasting if possible, and if not physically, then mentally, emotionally, if we're not able to fast, and inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reward you for your intentions. We don't fast because Hussein radiallahu anhu was martyred. That's not why we fast. That happened years later. That's not the reason for fasting on this day. It just happened by coincidence that he was a shaheed on that day. Okay, it's not a reason for celebration. Last thing, we got 1 minute left, is the Prophet ﷺ, he mentions in a hadith, and I understand that this hadith might not be the strongest, but it's a hadith at the end of the day, and we use it for virtuous purposes, for fadail, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, مَنْ وَسَّعَ عَلَىٰ عِيَالِهِ فِي النَّفَقَةِ يَوْمَ عَاشُورَى وَسَّعَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ سَائِرَ سَنَةٍ. وقال جابر الصحابي جربناه فوجدناه صحيحا. Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiallahu anhu, he states that the Prophet ﷺ said that anyone who spends liberally on his family on the day of Ashura, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will spend liberally on him throughout the entire year. So you know the Sahaba. When they hear something, they're going to apply it. So Jabir radiallahu anhu, he said that, okay, we tried this, we tested it out, and it really worked. It really worked. And Sufyan ibn Uyayna, he said, جربناه 50 أو 60 سنة. He didn't just try once or twice. He said, he tried it for 50, 60 years. So these are the Sahaba, these are the Tabi'in, these are the Tabi'in. In summary, we wrap up with this, that our calls to action, and every single action that we perform are embedded with the Quran and the Sunnah, and the only reason why we perform them are because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to perform them, but the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba performed these actions. And that's where they gain this sacredness and this sanctity. So number one is fast as much as we can in this blessed month of Muharram. Number two is, if you can't do that, then at least fast on the 9th and 10th, or 10th and the 11th. And number three, spend on your family in a halal manner, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of you for the rest of the year. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun ala al-mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.